This is a generational risk for the Toronto Maple Leafs as a shocking new report has dropped as it pertains to the Leafs' pursuit of Mikko Rantanen. And what's in this report has fans not only fired up, but very concerned as well. We're going to break down the report and discuss what it means going forward as the Leafs prepare for something big. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into it, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. And there's going to be a lot more coming, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. Darius, there's a lot to go over today. I mean, we are now in the weeds of the trade deadline. And again, we're a bit over 24 hours away from that deadline happening. And we just got a huge report as it pertains to the Mikko Rantanen situation. We had a video this morning on it, the update from Elliot Friedman, and we have another report about whether or not the Carolina Hurricanes are going to trade him. And it seems like they are. Let's dive into a bunch of different things here. And we're going to start with this one. And I kind of gave you a tidbit there, and you probably saw it in the thumbnail, Matthew Knies. But Mikko Rantanen will not be ready to commit to a Carolina contract extension prior to Friday's trade deadline, according to Pierre LeBrun. The Hurricanes will continue to weigh offers for Rantanen versus keeping him as a potential rental. So all signs now are pointing to him getting traded out of Carolina. That being said, they're still weighing their offers from other teams, but Mikko is not going to be extending in Carolina prior to the deadline. So all signs now point to him getting traded. And there was a new report surrounding Matthew Knies, which we'll dive into in a minute here, that has fans fired up. But Darius, it seems like he is definitely on his way out of Carolina, either at the trade deadline or in the offseason.
Yeah, and I want everyone to keep in mind at the same time that, there is a world where Carolina doesn't trade him because they don't get an offer that they think is good enough for him. They hold on to him, they go through the playoffs. I don't think that that team is good enough to win the Stanley Cup, and I don't think that they think that either. But there is a world where they hang on to him, and maybe he changes his mind through the playoffs. As time goes on, he goes, I wouldn't mind re-signing here. And I feel like that they could also be trying to bank on that because they acquired him knowing that they can offer him the most amount of years, unlike other teams in free agency. They can offer him the 8 versus the 7, right? So that's kind of what they thought. But at this point, if somebody blows them away with a trade offer and another team thinks that they can re-sign him, that's going to happen. They're going to try and trade him. But again, both ways, both things can still definitely happen. We know that the Kings are in on it. I think that they can offer Byfield, which I think is crazy. That might be the best offer that any other team can put on the table. So it's going to get a little crazy. But what they're asking for in return from the Toronto Maple Leafs might be a little bit too steep at this point. It's a little bit ridiculous. And it seems like a lot of teams are, asking for unfair prices from the Leafs, unlike other teams, what we've seen so far. But one thing that's bothering me, Nick, through this deadline, and we'll get to the return in a second, is what we've seen so far from the Leafs is, as an organization, both on and off the ice, this is a very reactive organization. They are not proactive whatsoever. They don't initiate on the ice. They've done a little bit more of that this year, but over the course of the Matthews and Marner era, they aren't. Whether it's the front office, whether it's on the ice, they do not initiate, they're not proactive, they're very reactive. So I feel like right now they're trying to make a reactive move because the Florida Panthers were proactive. They went out and made a move. Same with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I'm seeing that right now from the Leafs, and I'm not liking that.
Yeah, and you mentioned how there might not be a team that matches the Quentin Byfield offer. Let me debate that with, you can see right here, according to David Podnata, the Hurricanes have asked the Leafs for Matthew Knies to be included in the Mikko Rantanen deal, something Brad Treliving is not interested in doing unless there is a long-term commitment from Mikko Rantanen. So this is interesting, and I'm going to pat myself on the back. A week or two ago, I said this might be the only way it gets done, just simply because of the availability of the Los Angeles Kings and the fact that they have Quentin Byfield, a young up-and-coming player in this league. Now, Matthew Knies is a rising star in this league as well, and I would assume that Carolina, if they had an offer between Matthew Knies and Quentin Byfield, maybe it would be close. I think they'd probably prefer Matthew Knies. That being said, you will have to extend him and pay him the money, but he's going to be worth all the money in the world, as we know. This is interesting, and this just dropped from David Ponata. This is, the question that becomes now, because of, like you mentioned, how they're reactive, if they feel that they have to make a move and that there's pressure from the ownership, whatever it ends up being, and then Brad Treliving wants to force the issue, I could see them, I don't know about including Matthew Knies in a trade, but it says here at the end, if Mikko Rantanen does agree to an extension prior to the trade, there is a world where we see Matthew Knies, which is crazy to say, shipped out of Toronto, but the report says without a long-term commitment. So if there is a long-term commitment, I could see a world where they extend Mikko Rantanen, and then trade for him too after. I don't know, it would be a ridiculous thing to even entertain Matthew Knies getting traded, but it's a real possibility. I think a lot of that is because of how this trade deadline has went so far. The teams around the Leafs have gotten significantly better.
Yeah, it's going to get a little crazy, I think. If it's a sign and trade, I could see the Leafs pulling the trigger. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I would not do this whether it comes with a contract or not because Matthew Knies is going to be a good player in this league. Like, this is his third year. He's going to score over 30 goals. Like, he is going to be a force to be reckoned with. We've seen what he can do in the playoffs already. I wouldn't make this move. I would make the move if it was like a first round pick and Bobby McMahon. And I think McMahon's a great player still, right? Like, but I think Matthew Knies is just on a different level, so I wouldn't make that trade for that. Although I could see that the Leafs might do that if it comes with an extension. You're adding Mikko Rantanen. The only reason I wouldn't do that if it comes with an extension is because when you look towards the future and after this playoff run, if Mitch Marner leaves, yes, you have Mikko Rantanen. Yes, he's signed, but you don't have Matthew Knies or Mitch Marner now at this point, right? Like that's kind of a tough situation if that were to happen. But with the Leafs and the position they're in right now, I don't know if you can make decisions based off ifs. I feel like you have to go and try and win a Stanley Cup. A lot of people are saying that they're not built right because of what happened last night. That's a very small sample size, right? They've had a great season to this point. Not a great week, but they've had a great season. So it's going to get really crazy, I think, in the next day, maybe even couple hours as we head towards the trade deadline, because Carolina looks like they want to move off this player because they don't want any risk here. They don't want to hang on to him and then lose him for nothing. And then they traded one of their best young players away for that. So it's going to get pretty crazy. But if I was the Toronto Maple Leafs, logically speaking, I don't know if I would trade away Matthew Knies. I think I would be asking for literally any other package. I would be like, would McMahon get it done? Would two first get it done? Like I would try anything else besides Knies because yes, I like McMahon, but Knies is just on a different level for me.
Yeah, let us know down below what your thoughts are. Also, a couple other updates. Elliot Freeman said this an hour ago. If Carolina gets something they like, I wouldn't be surprised to see him moved again by 3 p.m. Eastern on Friday. So that's yet another report from a different reporter. I mean, it seems like at this point there's a good chance that Mikko does get traded. And part of that is because league sourcing confirmed that Carolina has received clarity from Mikko Rantanen's camp as far as not being ready to make a decision. Hence, Carolina is talking to teams and seeing for real what the trade market is for him. So that's the big thing here is for real because they're not just doing due diligence anymore. They're actually trying to, are willing to trade him if they get the right offer. Comes down to weighing the best trade offers on the table versus keeping Rantanen as a rental. And obviously, you think back to the trade that they made initially with Marty Necas. He is now gone. They didn't give up a first-round pick to get Rantanen, so maybe that would help if other teams are willing to give up first-round picks and players of that nature, although you can consider Marty Necas a first-round pick in his own right. It is a little bit wild. In case you missed the video earlier, just to dive into it again a little bit here, Elliot Friedman said, according to sources, they're doing their due diligence, but now it seems today that they're doing a bit more than that. And this, like I mentioned in yesterday's video, this is usually the start, which was yesterday night when things started to pick up, and then today things are starting to get real. Now, among teams on the list are the Panthers, which aren't noted here, but are also a team, Toronto, Dallas, and of course the Kings. I think the Kings being the biggest suitor here, but the fact that they can have double retention at 2.3 million because the Blackhawks are retaining 50%, and then of course, or a certain amount, and then of course, if you have the Carolina Hurricanes retain more, I mean, getting Rantanen even for this year at that cap hit is absurd. But any final thoughts as next time we were talking about this player, he could be a Leaf or he could be a disastrous result in a Florida Panther.
I think it's going to get a little crazy because, like I mentioned in a video yesterday, I don't think he's prepared to sign any contract anytime soon. I think he might wait till free agency. One thing I've been seeing online and in the comments as well is a lot of people are saying, why would Carolina trade him to either a divisional rival or a rival in the Eastern Conference, like another team in the Eastern Conference that they might see in the playoffs? I don't think Carolina cares. I don't think like they do not want to lose this guy for nothing, right? I think they want some assets in return if they know he's not going to re-sign. So I don't think they care where he goes. They want assets in return. They want to recoup something for this player. So I think it's going to get crazy. I think whoever has the best offer is going to get the player. And if there is an offer or if they can't come to an agreement on anything, I think that he stays and they're going to continue to try to get an extension done with him through the playoffs. So it's going to get pretty crazy, but I don't think he's going to stay a Hurricane.
Yeah, we'll keep you up to date with all this news. So make sure to hit the subscribe button and buckle up. It's going to be a crazy next 24 hours.